So, Wesley, today on Disaster Class, we're talking about exercises.
A school principal has been put on leave after witnesses say she held a disturbing active shooter safety drill at a San Gabriel elementary school.
The example that we're talking about today is real life and had some potentially very devastating consequences. This episode of Disaster Class is brought to you by Safer Escape. When a fire happens, seconds count. The Modum retractable fire escape ladder was designed with safety in mind and is always ready when you need it most. It's easy to use, affordable, and dependable. Don't leave your family's safety to chance. Visit saferescape.com to get a free quote and free shipping off your first order when you mention Disaster Class. Visit saferescape.com today or call 725-2ESCAPE. That's 725-2ESCAPE. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Disaster Class. I'm Jason Perez.
And I am Wesley Long.
And Wesley, you know what the bell means.
Absolutely. Class is in session.
Class is in session. So today we're talking about exercises. Now, you may have remembered we did an episode, Dwight's fire drill. We kind of took a humorous example of an exercise that was poorly planned, poorly executed, and of course, that it was a TV show. It wasn't real. It was humorous in nature, but we learned some very valuable lessons from it.
Yep, there were some learning points.
But now, Wesley, today we're going to talk about a real life example of an exercise gone wrong. We're going to break it down and see what lessons we can learn from it. How can we prevent something like this from happening again? So let's go ahead and let's watch the clip.
KTLA Sandra Mitchell reports from San Gabriel, where she spoke with concerned parents about the drill they say left children traumatized.
Yeah, wait until you hear what happened. Parents tell us the principal at this elementary school pointed her fingers at young children and pretended to shoot them. She just became principal here at Washington Elementary back in the fall, and now it appears her job is in jeopardy. Dismissal time at Washington Elementary in San Gabriel. Children and parents upset by what the school principal did during a lockdown drill.
She proceeded to walk around the campus and pretend to shoot people she saw using finger movements and banging on the window. From what I heard, one of the students was told, "Boom, you're dead."
Children as young as 4 years old.
He was really upset.
Witnessed the ordeal, including Jennifer Chavez's first grade son.
The one shocking, surprising thing he said as a 6-year-old was, "I'm just really glad none of my friends died."
Now the principal at the school, Dr. Nina Denson, has been put on leave. Was this drill approved by the district?
No, it wasn't. This type of drill where a scenario was run is not approved by the district or part of our district protocol.
The superintendent confirmed to KTLA that the drill did happen yesterday. And then staff members say the principal made an announcement that 7 children were dead.
Oh my God, can you imagine the trauma these children potentially could go through of just thinking, oh my God, my friend was killed, or I was shot and told I died at this age, the young age that these children are. It was very upsetting.
The district sent an email to parents stating the conduct of the drill does not appear to have been in line with district protocols or best practices. There is an investigation underway, but some parents have already made up their mind.
I don't want her to be back here at all. She does not have the trust about the community.
Obviously, staff members also very upset by what happened yesterday. We are told there were counselors here on campus today for those staff members and for the students. And just a little while ago, an email went out to parents, an update telling them that a lead teacher here at the school with almost 20 years experience in the district will be taking over as interim principal. In San Gabriel, I'm Sandra Mitchell, KTLA 5 News. Back to you.
So, Wesley, what did you think of that?
It was hard to watch.
Really,
really unfortunate set of circumstances there. Trying to be as positive as possible about the situation and the individuals involved. I think I do appreciate uh, where her head was at for the need to have,
The
uh,
intention,
yeah, the
the
intention,
motive.
motive, the passion with which she went into it. Um, you know, all those things are important and valuable, but the more and more we delve into working as emergency management specialists with the niche that we are focusing on of schools K through 12, we are we're starting to see some trends, um, and some of the trends are not unlike what we've seen here, where again, great intentions, uh, potentially great passion. There's a desire to increase the emergency awareness and the situational awareness for organizations, for faculty, for staff, for children. No one questions how important that is
Right.
across the board. And we're usually dealing with, when we're talking on the administrative side, highly educated individuals, highly credentialed individuals, people that have a ton of passion in their lives. They want to teach kids, right? There may be no better calling than that, and I get it, but many of them have not been trained in emergency management capabilities, structure, process. So they have an idea of safety, right? And that's great. But there's value in having experience and training in the emergency management sector.
Yeah. Because when we think about this, school principals, superintendents, officials, whatever, right? What they're trained is the education,
Correct.
right? Is educating the students. That's their job, is to
And
make
we're
sure.
not belittling that. That's a
Yeah,
huge,
and it
yeah,
is an overwhelmingly large task that they have to do so. So they, we didn't always have these crazy issues in schools, these big security concerns. So it's a, relatively up and coming newer trend. And so a lot of our teachers, our superintendents, our principals haven't been adequately trained or
yeah.
given
This
the
is
resources and the tools to address these really serious and major concerns.
correct.
So, like you said, there's the intention was there, maybe the motive was there, but just very poor execution. Because we've talked about it, right? When we've discussed exercises before, there's tremendous value in exercises, in drills,
Mm-hmm.
going
Tabletops.
through the motions. It's a great learning experience. Now, one thing that I identified right off the gate was this seemed just kind of like a spur of the moment unplanned event.
Yeah, it's hard for me to even identify if she had a team that she consulted with prior.
Hmm.
Um, it definitely doesn't seem as though it was communicated
Right,
to anyone potentially in the organization.
right. So, I mean, first learning point is, yes, there is value in drills. There's values in exercising your plans.
100%.
But to do it right, you have to really plan it out thoroughly. And so, there's one of the things that, when we design and build exercises at Instinct Ready, we're using the Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program. So very specific criteria, very specific planning guidelines, um,
Structure.
a
Mm-hmm.
structure in place that's was developed by Department of Homeland Security on how to do these types of exercise and drills. So there is a method and a procedure to do it and to do it right. The other thing I identified too is, when you do a drill, when you do an exercise, having clear objectives, right? Why are we doing the drill? Why
Right.
are we
What are we trying to learn?
What are we trying to learn, right? What are our objectives? Because really what we want to do is identify gaps and weaknesses in our plans, in our policies, in our procedures, right? going in with a very specific objectives is what we're learning from it and what we're gaining from it can be very valuable. But we
Yeah,
have to
that's the
have those
whole
objectives in
purpose.
mind. Right.
Right, because the whole purpose of this is to see how we can increase the safety measures and planning and procedures of an organization. So
Right.
if we don't have the objectives at the outset, what's the takeaway, right? There's no
Correct.
takeaway with that
Correct.
objective.
Yeah. So, yeah, so big misses there. What else did you notice, Wesley?
Um, just overall, and at Instinct Ready Emergency Management, our heart goes out to the children
Mhm.
and the parents affected by this, thinking about the emotional trauma that they may have subjected those kids to, and the faculty and the staff, right? Everyone, what an emotional mess they may have created, right? When you've got first graders, second graders saying, "Oh, I hope my friends didn't die in this extra." What? Like that? I don't. You know, I applaud the school district for something that I heard that they were doing, and we do have specific verbiage for it. Emotional first aid, emotional therapy. You heard at the end they had brought in some counselors to deal with that, to almost do a stress debrief of all the individuals involved. So again, kudos to the school for reacting appropriately. But also too, they do have policies and procedures, and at first listen and watch, it doesn't appear that the principal even adhered to those.
Right. Right. So that goes into is also awareness and making sure your staff is is thoroughly knows what the policies, plans, and procedures are. Yeah, and I found it interesting. One of the, I don't know if it was the superintendent, but one of the school officials at the end, said that this type of scenario training was not something that was approved
Correct. That was
in the
superintendent who said
procedures.
that. Mhm.
Now, I don't know if that was just a blanket statement, like referring to this type of drill, because going back, right, there is a lot of value to running a scenario exercise, a scenario drill. Probably is something as sensitive like this, probably not including young children in that
Uh,
I mean, there might, where
well,
you say,
again, I don't know what the value is in creating a visual and a feeling that there is actually a shooter doing something
right.
actively,
Hmm.
right? I don't know what you're testing with that. The
Right.
the reaction of the, like, but again, what's more important is the objectives, having some very, very
Right.
specific objectives, and seeing if, like you said, if there are any holes and gaps in our current plan where, hey, yeah, if something happens in this area, maybe we haven't had a thorough security walkthrough, and there is easy access off the street for someone to enter the school, right? It's not realistic if, so we're saying the active shooter started from the principal's office and had access, right? It's like, what are
Right.
we testing with that? And is walking through the courtyard, so they came in through the principal's office, went, what are we testing? What are we trying,
Right. Right.
right? What barriers are we trying to create that doesn't happen again?
Right.
Or is the only thing that comes from this is we hope the school principal doesn't go rogue? Like, what are we, right? What are we testing?
Right.
So it's a really unfortunate situation all the way around. But again, we were able to get a really good laugh at the Dwight situation,
Right.
right? It was very comical. It's easy to laugh at that when it's not real life.
Right.
But when you start seeing those type of trends happening, um, to say this is a highly educated, certified woman who got this job, right? She was the right
Doctorate. Hmm.
job in fall, and something inside her said, "Yeah, this is a good idea."
Hmm.
So again, going with the approach of a village, and like what we do is when we start getting that stakeholder input, you need a lot of people at the table.
Right. A planning team. And that's part of the whole
Planning.
HC, Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program is having a planning team made up of different stakeholders, right? Getting the different individuals involved in that planning process for the exercise. So, we, of course, we don't know all the details behind the scenes.
Definitely.
Could it have been one of those things where she saw this need and she wanted to do some kind of training or drill or something and maybe got pushed back from, the senior officials, and so she
It's
took
happening.
matters into her own hands? That's a possibility. I don't know. We don't know all the details, but I think the message for school officials
Right.
is to, be proactive
100%.
in these because think about it. I mean, to her point, she's a principal of a school. She's looking after the safety and security of all those students
In
and
fact, mhm,
and the faculty. And, is she scared? Is she concerned about all the lives that are under her care and responsibility?
mhm.
And, sometimes when we feel like we don't have the maybe the buy-in or the resources to do it right, we kind of maybe she thought, "Well, I got to take matters into my own hands." Still,
Or
it still doesn't excuse what she did.
at all. But also, too, I could see a scenario, right? Where this is all conjecture, right? We have no idea what she was thinking. We're not connected to this in any way, shape, or form. But I could also see a scenario where she sat down as the principal and maybe looked at their plans and saw gaps and was
Right.
like, and maybe how can I get this to everyone's attention that we need major retrofit of our
Right.
planning? Maybe it's if I do this thing that has big enough splash, it'll get people to look at this and realize how many gaps we have. Right. So again, we don't know why she did it, but I will say this, and let me ask this, Jason, with the potential things that could be running through her mind with her, we all agree, good intentions and passion. Is this a one-off in regard to the different school administrators you've spoken to, that I've spoken to, that we've had in our
Oh yeah.
consultation?
No. And
Are
unfortunately,
the sentiments a
Mhm.
one-off, or is this unfortunately the same type of thing that we're hearing time and time again?
Yeah, no, it's a trend, and we've talked with other school districts, other um, you know, teachers and school administrators, and sometimes they're struggling to get the buy-in of their boards. They're struggling because they have concerns. And I
Mhm.
remember we talked with one individual, and she had some very serious
Very serious.
concerns about their school's plans and their school's readiness for some even the after school programs,
Right.
but getting that buy-in of the school, the school oversight, the school administrators, the board, to be able to give them the resources to effectively plan, was seemed to be a struggle. So if there's a learning lesson here for school boards, for school administrators, the ones that are especially controlling the strings, be proactive about this because the individuals under your under your oversight are concerned, and they have
Mhm.
legitimate concerns and about school safety and security that need to be addressed. But
Yeah.
working
Something happened.
together in a collaborative approach, we can do it without making devastating mistakes like this.
Yeah. So I love that message going out to any of our listeners and viewers that may be school administrators. And put you on the spot here. We had not discussed this, but I always love throwing you a
You love
curveball.
throwing me curveballs.
Jason, you have no idea. Well, you might have a little idea.
No, I have
Um,
an idea.
so now you just crafted a message to administrators, stakeholders. What would your message be to parents
Right.
have children in schools that may be on the PTA, may be thinking about be becoming a
Right.
member of the PTA? Uh, what do you say to the concerned parent who watches this? And if some school teachers feel helpless because of the pushback they get from up top, what about a parent who may feel help? What can a
Right.
parent do, Jason, do you think,
Right. Absolutely.
to help keep their child safe?
I would say don't leave your kid's safety to chance. Get involved, ask the questions, join the PTA, attend meetings, attend school board meetings, ask questions. You have, if your child is in a school, you have the right to know if they're ready and equipped to handle these major issues that come up. Do they have a plan that addresses whatever concern you have? Right. It's not just, yeah, of course we get a lot of the active shooter thing gets a lot of attention, but it's not just that, right?
Right.
Still relatively low probability something like that happens, but there's a lot of other concerns
Hmm.
that you might have. Like, what about bus safety? Does your school district have a plan for bus safety and transportation? Right. Especially if they're using a third party service, do they have plans and procedures and policies in place? So,
And
what about after
if something
reunification?
happens, will I be able to be reunified with my kids? Especially if, let's just say, for instance, because I think these are important points. I want to slow it down and break it down for especially for parents now is who we're
Right.
talking to. There's a big difference between if your school district owns and manages their own buses versus if they use a third party company to do that. Right off the bat, some questions are if they're using a third party, what is their emergency action plan to take care of the kids?
Do they
What is
have
their,
one?
do they even have one? What's the communication plan if an incident does happen? If an incident does happen and there's separation, what is that reunification plan now that you're going through a third party?
Right.
These are legitimate concerns that parents should have, and they have every right to ask these questions when you go to a school board meeting, when you go to a PTA meeting. There's also local safety groups that can be formed inside schools that parents could be a part of, depending on how their school system is set up. Those are legitimate questions. Jason, how about this? What about an off campus activity? What about a field trip?
Right. Yeah. Field trips, after school activities. There's like a lot of times it's like the school's emergency plans cover, from the first bell and then it ends at the last bell. Well, what about the football game? What about the soccer practice? All the little extracurricular activities. What is the school's plans for addressing emergencies that happen off hours? So these are all the different things that school districts need to be taking into consideration. And at Instinct Ready, we are actively working with school districts to address these, to make sure that there's continuous, care of their children, and that there's continuous plans in place that handle all these different activities. But for parents and just to home it in again, right? Get involved,
Yeah,
ask the questions,
that's the questions.
and because the parents a lot of times are the ones that can really put the pressure on the
Oh, 100%.
administrators to be
Right.
able to implement these things that need to
Yeah, if
happen.
the administrators take a temperature and they realize that all the people want X, Y, and Z, especially when it comes to school board who are elected officials generally, right? Um, that's going to move the needle.
Right.
When the parents get in and have a voice, that's going to move the needle. So, just as another offer from here at Disaster Class Instinct Ready, if you are a parent and you have questions or want to maybe have a list of questions that we could arm you with when you go in and talk to a principal, a superintendent at a PTA meeting, we are more than happy to give you an idea of what some of these questions are that are being asked with some of the clients that we've worked with. We're happy to share that information. And if you are a parent that is concerned and you know of an administrator that maybe you have their ear and you would like Instinct Ready to come in and maybe, because we have the biggest thing that we're doing right now is a 1 hour consultation and it's free. We'll sit down with the school and we'll do that intake. We've got Jason, we've got myself, we've got some other really key safety specialists, subject matter experts that are on our team that have run the gamut of not only have run the gamut of implementing plans, they actually sit on boards here in New York that dictate what school safety is, right? Like they're the board that say this is what schools have to have. We've got some of those individuals on our team sitting down and that can look at your school safety plans and make sure we come up with solutions for the gaps, because it's very rare that we get our hands on a safety plan from a school and there aren't some gaps,
Right.
especially with our continuity of care approach that we are not inventing, but bringing to bear really with instinct ready emergency management. And there'll be some links in the show notes below, so parents can get an idea of what that is. And we encourage parents, to download that document so you can educate yourself, and then you could take that to your school PTA meeting and be like, well, here's what this company is doing. A very holistic approach that's covering every aspect of the care of my child from when they leave my porch to when they come back to my porch. Um, does our school have something like this? If it doesn't, why not? Can we get this going? So it's here at Disaster Class, we are trying to teach some things, and we love that opportunity. We're trying to give you guys an idea of what's happening so that it can increase your awareness. But we're also not the guy that raises our hand and just says, hey, there's a problem. We try to raise our hand once we have the process of a solution to assist you guys. And again, keeping our kids safe, I don't know if there's anything more important than that these days, right? Yeah, so a lot of lessons learned from this very, very difficult to watch scenario.
Yeah, definitely a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can all work together to make sure things like this don't happen again, right?
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
let history repeat itself.
Right.
So,
even at school, they still, even though they had the situation, whatever need she saw has not been filled.
Right.
And yeah, so we're just trying to help as many folks as we can.
Absolutely. Well, this was a sobering episode, but it's a serious topic. It's one that deserves our attention. So, as always, make sure if you have questions, write in. What we really want to be able to interact with our listeners, and what concerns do you have? So especially our parents, right? What have you identified any particular, areas of concern with your local school district? We're happy to just be a resource. Reach out to us if you have questions. We're happy to correspond. You can send us an email at disasterclass@instinctready.com, and we can get back to you there.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Wesley, I think that pretty much concludes this episode. We'll be back next month with another episode, some other situations, other things we can learn. But until then, stay educated,
stay prepared,
stay equipped, and we'll see you next time.
Class dismissed.